Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible in all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young and I'm one of your fabled mythical hosts. Joining me as always is our other fabled and mythical host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. How are you?
I'm good.
What's the
You're
crack?
you're definitely mythical.
Thank you.
Yeah, good choice of words this week.
I'm feeling really mythical today.
How's it going?
Yeah, pretty rad as always. How are you?
Good.
You know me.
So, yeah. So, oh yeah, I
Oh
just got
yeah.
sounded like I'm from the Dakotas there.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. So, what's the correct? Mike is leaving for Japan tomorrow for two
Oh,
weeks.
okay. Uh-huh.
So, he's doing research off a tiny island off of Okinawa,
Oh, nice. Uh-huh.
and
Yep,
he's
yep.
never been to Japan, and I'm trying to convince him how awesome it is.
It is.
And he's like, "But I love Taiwan." I'm like, "You can love two places. It's
It's true.
cool." So he's going to be staying in Tokyo for like 4 days and then doing like marine research about coral
Hmm.
or temperatures in the ocean or some such thing. Um, but so yeah, I'm gonna be single parenting for 2 weeks.
Good luck with that.
Lots of
Like,
sleepovers, lots of earbuds,
what's a
and half
sleepovers?
parenting.
Sleepovers at other people's houses? Yeah. It's like,
Right.
do you want my
Bye,
children for a few
children.
days? Bye. Uh, the there's I was going to suggest because I've got a good one of my very best friends lives out in Japan, and I was like, oh, she'd might be able to recommend him things, but she woun't be able to do that. She's the most just as Japanese person I've ever known in terms of like actually having any local knowledge or
Mhm.
connection with Japan at all. Um,
There's one thing I was like, if you go to Shibuya, that square where like
yes,
all the people
it's
cross at the
chaos.
same time, it's chaos. Um, he'll love it because there's a Starbucks and he cannot live without any kind of like caffeine. He's caffeinated all the time. But there's a dog statue and I
Oh,
can't remember
uh-huh.
the name of the dog. Have I told you about this? Do you know
Yeah, I
this
think I know
this
this
story?
story. Hmm.
It's one of my favorites of all time ever. And I went in the early 2000s and did see the dog statue. But the story is that the owner would the dog would go with the owner to the train station every day and wait until the owner was done with work, got on the train, would meet the dog, and then they would go home together. And then the owner, I think, had a heart attack at work and never came back on the train. And so the dog stayed and waited for the owner and ended up living in the train station. And, people knew the dog and knew the owner, so they would, feed it, and it just waited there for the owner to come back, and then it died at the train station. And they were so, honored to have the dog, and everyone loved the dog and loved the story, and just that precious connection between humans and dogs. And so they actually built a statue of the dog that's
Yeah,
that's there. So I
it
was like, go see the dog statue, please.
devastating. Like, I mean, it's so beautiful and so it's such a sweet one. I have actually heard that story before. I don't know that I've
Yep.
seen the statue, but I have heard that story before.
Yeah,
Because
it's the
yeah,
dog.
and I wonder because it's been what nearly 15 years since I was there, so it's possible it's the statue is newer than that, possibly. Because I think that story's not super old, but oldish.
Yeah, I was there, I think it was like 2004.
Okay, no, I would have been well after that, so I just didn't see the dog
Yeah.
statue. Not I
Yeah.
think I maybe even heard that story after the effect, but yeah. And
Mhm.
like that whole area is insane. One of the busiest intersection in the world or something like that. And I
Yep.
remember like uh one of my favorite interactions was I was meeting a friend and and they were like, funny. So the instructions was I was to go to Shibuya crossing. I think that's it. I can't remember. And I was to look for the Asian looking person. I'm like, thanks, man.
Thanks.
Perfect. That's exactly what I needed to know. Yeah. It was very funny though. Um, but
So
yeah,
yeah, I'm living vicariously through his travels, and I'm like, do this, go here. So
hell yeah, I love it.
I love Japan. I love Japan. So I
It
hope he
is.
loves it, and then we can go
Yeah,
with the kids.
definitely.
And I was like, this is a recon mission. Like, you find the places, you know, find the restaurants, see if you like it.
It's
He
it's
just loves
somewhere I've
Japan
been
so
wanting to go
much.
back to because like I did a very kind of whistle stop tour of Osaka all the way up to no, sorry, even lower than that. It was from Hiroshima all
Hmm.
the way up because we essentially got a boat from Korea to the kind of one of the ports in the south of Japan.
I feel because I'm an American, I hear that word and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. And it was like we did the museum and that museum has stayed with me. It was whoa, it was intense. But like I mean, it is a beautiful, vibrant, thriving city and it felt a lot friendlier than like
Mm,
Osaka we were not crazy on about at first. We grew to love it. We had a really incredible experience one of the evenings
mhm,
there. But like it felt a lot warmer in Hiroshima. The people were really lovely and it was
mhm,
really nice.
mhm.
Um
I guess there's like an ancient city off of like the southern part of Japan
mhm.
that they've discovered, and it's like kind of like Lost City of Atlantis-y,
Oh,
and
I
he
didn't
was
know
trying to
that.
dive it. Uh-huh. And he was like it would have been I'm getting all this information wrong, but anyways, he was gonna try and dive it, but no one got back to him. And I was like,
Oh,
there's
it's a
just so
shame.
many people. It's like if not like someone else will take like they don't get back to you because there's just so many people. And I'm
Yeah.
sure like all the people that are trying to go see like the lost city of Atlantis off of the coast of Japan, like that's kind of something you've got to plan for a little further out. So
You're probably right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's a shame though. That'll
So
be nice. Oh, I'm sure I'll enjoy it. That's good.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. What
more
about
than
you?
you.
I know, right?
So
More than
yeah, I was
me.
gonna say more than you'll enjoy it the next 2 weeks. Uh,
It's gonna be fine, Andy.
it is gonna be fine. It's gonna be normal and not stressful. Um, so so I think I might possibly mentioned it on the podcast before, but I have good friends who live down in Fermanagh. Yes, I have because I've described it confusingly as the south of Northern Ireland. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes.
So they're
And now
on
I
like
know a little bit more about this, so I
yeah
know where you're. Yeah, yeah. I can picture that on the maps.
on the maps. So they're on like a wee sort of island, like a lot, like there's a bridge attached to the island. And I go down there every now and again just to spend time with them. It's just nice because I really like completely disconnecting from everything else. So I essentially go down there. I don't really touch my phone for like 2 days. I play board games with them. I play with their son. It's great. It's just a nice wee break. It's really lovely. And also I know my friend enjoys it because a lot of the time he's just there parenting most of the time. So he enjoys kind of
Adult conversation.
yes. Yeah. I mean like and by adult conversation, I mean we talk about comic books, right? So if you can classify that as an adult conversation, then we have it covered, you know. But it's always lovely to get down there, and it was really kind of what I needed after fairly kind of like hectic a few weeks. It was nice. It was a break that I kind of needed, you know. So it
Mhm.
was good. Um, the other thing that I was occurring is so I live in a town called Carrickfergus. I don't know if I've talked about that before on here.
I don't think you have.
I
You've
don't know if I've actually said the actual name of it.
yeah.
Um, and pretty recently we there so I'm working with this group that's kind of trying to do things in the town and try to like because we have a town of like mixed history, but like by and large it has really got has went down a particular path and which is fine, but it also it excludes other people who don't really want to be involved with that particular path. And
This is very obscure, but yes,
yeah, I don't
I
want to
can
get
tell
too much
you're.
into it
Yeah,
because
I can
it's
tell.
like it's also a lot to explain, but
So you're trying to build community.
yeah, trying to build community, trying
Uh-huh.
to build other options for people, which is why I do the
Uh-huh.
choir and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that they did was they had a quiz in our town hall. Like, so it was a big quiz. It was about our town because like there's a lot of like history and a lot of like weird connections with people in our town, like poets that stayed big chunks of time here and so on and so forth. But there is a quasi famous folk song called "I Wish I Wasn't Carrickfergus,"
Mhm.
and I'm aware of its existence. I'm aware that it is it's
I
fairly famous. Have you
think
may
I've
heard of it?
heard it
Yeah.
actually. Yes, I have. And I was
So
like, I think it was in a movie I was
It,
watching, and I was like,
probably.
"That's Andy's town. What the fuck?"
Yeah. I like there was a what do you call him? The ginger haired guy. The singer, the ginger haired guy.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran has a
Ed.
song.
Yeah.
I think he has done a cover of it, but he also mentions Carrickfergus in another song of his, etc., etc. So like we
Uh-huh.
do have this kind of weird, obscure name recognition. So so anyway, the quiz was happening and we knew some of it was town centric and we did okay on those, but not incredibly well. And then actually we did pretty good because I know people who were on my team are going to be listening to this and they're going to shout at me. So we came 5 out of like 26 teams, so we did decently. And one of the rounds was here are 8 cover versions of I Wish I Was in Carrickfergus. Can you name the people singing them? And it was a shit show. It was nearly impossible to identify because and there was some of the bigger names like Van Morrison obviously would be an
Uh-huh.
internationally recognized name. You recognize his voice. There was another kind of
Absolutely.
famous version of it
Hmm.
by
Remind me to do a Soundgarden impression for you, not on pod.
we'll see. Maybe I'm fine if I tuck
Okay.
that into it. And another kind of famous Charlotte Church one, but the rest was just an absolute nightmare. But so it was just, I mean, because it was so funny because like on at our table, there's quite a few people who I would say are really knowledgeable about music. So we saw music round coming up. Oh, this is got a big point score for us, and it was a disaster. But it was
Feel like we
really
have
good
no
fun.
idea.
Really good fun as a result, I thought as well. So it was just a nice
That's
night.
awesome.
And it's nice to do something like, with some of the stuff we are doing in a lively, vibrant atmosphere in our town centre, which isn't always the case. So it was lovely.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we don't have that in the town I'm in. Like a
Do you have like town halls? Not
not
really.
really.
Hmm.
No, it's all done online.
Yeah. Wow,
Like
that
we have a
sucks.
yeah, yeah. We don't really have, there's no like place that where everybody congregates. There's
Yeah.
churches,
Yeah.
but there's no, we have like a rodeo once a year and that's where everyone shows up.
Oh,
But
that sounds nice though. But like I
yeah.
think because so I mean, and this is just probably a general gripe, but like they it seems like across the UK there is an idea of like trying to start closing down town halls because they are using resources that you know I mean the town obviously towns have to put their money in lots of different places and I think a lot of them are seeing keeping this big building running as a kind of not something they want anymore so they're trying to sell them like private enterprises and stuff and that really makes me sad. I really hope that that is stops
I,
happening because
yeah. Like we have like what they're called granges,
Mhm.
and like smaller, like really small towns, usually in like rural communities will have granges, and that's kind of like where people will congregate that will fit, enough. But um in America, we really don't have that at all. And I will say that finding community as a result is so much harder than it probably is in the UK.
Yeah.
And I would like I would be scared to have that, place where people congregate, where you can have fun activities, or people can share ideas, or,
Yeah.
argue or whatever. Like
Yeah.
having that is so important, and not having that is really detrimental uh to the
I
community,
It is. It is. And I mean like it just
especially during an election year.
yeah. Uh, it's so true. And I mean you said like, these things are done online. It's like, well, you're right there. If everybody was all over the place, that makes sense. But like, if considering like
Yeah.
everybody's in the town,
Yeah,
you know,
we literally have Main Street where all
yeah,
the stores are on, but
there's no saying a hub as
there's
such.
no community center,
And
I
I
mean the
think
library, but like
and it's like
it's sad. It's
and
sad.
it's yeah, because like, even within my town and what we're like, what, 40,000 people or something, there are 4 or 5 community centers and the town hall, we're
Yeah.
well, which is,
We have
and
like 15,000 and we have zero.
see, that's such a shame. That's wild
Yeah,
to me. That's,
I
I mean,
know.
like, and I think, I wonder is that, and whatever, but like, I think that's really what pushes people towards church and stuff because they can get that there. Whereas,
Hmm.
like, I'm all in favor of, people going down that path, but it would be nice to have options of something that's not connected to the church, that's
Hmm.
doing community stuff as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. What a joyous way for us to kick off our,
Right.
or what's the crack? The demise of local towns.
Right, right, right.
The last thing, and I feel like I've got it written down here, and I keep meaning to do an update on it, was like, is Andy still smelling smoke update?
Are you
Um,
still smelling smoke?
occasionally, yeah,
Seriously?
yeah. It's like not as pronounced now. Like post Christmas, it has almost completely went, but it happens sometimes. Even more recent, we were talking before this podcast about me maybe getting like some sort of blood work or some sort of like physical to find out what's going on with me.
Hmm.
I think another reason to do that is the fact that I'm still smelling smoke occasionally. But it's certainly not as bad as it was prior to Christmas. It was almost a daily occurrence, so it's not even close. But there's been a few times when I'm like, I
This
like,
is like months though.
yeah, I know. I is few and far between now. I'm wondering whether this most recent occurrences are just me actually smelling smoke, but I don't think there is actual smoke going on.
Are
So
you smoking?
no. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. Now you mention it by weird coincidence, a cigarette was hanging out of my mouth every time. No, that's not what happened. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Sorry.
If I was sitting here and I was
It's
smoking a
like,
cigarette.
where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? And they're on
Yeah,
your head, right? But you're like,
yeah, yeah.
oh, it's
If
because
I'm
I'm
smelling
actually
smoke right
smoking
now,
a
isn't it
cigarette.
weird? And there's like I'm just ashing a cigarette as I do it.
Sorry.
So yeah. So yeah. So that's what the crack is. Do you have any do we what's occurring this week
I
with
do. I
you?
had a friend of ours reach out
Uh-huh.
uh so we just did an episode about weird workplace stories. And I was talking about how my first job was at Baskin and Robbins when I was 14, chilling ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
And she
Mm-hmm.
sent me a
Yes.
message. She was like, my first job was at Baskin and Robbins when I
No
was
way.
14. Uh-huh. And she was like, they made her use paper cups to mix the shakes. Like, have you ever made a malted or like a shake?
Yeah.
They've got this thing, it's like a blade, and she's like,
Yeah.
paper cups, like what were they thinking? I'm just shredding these
Wow.
things. I know. And I was like, yeah, like I had the stainless steel thing, and yeah. She was like, I lasted a couple months, that was it.
No,
But
that sounds nightmarish. That sounds like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, wow, that's so funny. I mean, I suppose like it's such a huge chain,
It
unsurprising in some
reminded
ways.
me of something. So
Hmm.
this isn't chain specific. This was just, and the store that I worked at doesn't exist anymore. So I don't feel bad about saying this, but my boss told me if you like are scooping some ice cream and you accidentally drop it on the floor, like get them another one, right? But then when they walk away, pick it up off the floor and put it back in the freezer case.
Oh,
So
what
I
a
don't feel
nightmare.
so bad about leaving the freezer door open and
No,
ruining $25,000
no,
worth of ice cream.
absolutely not.
That's what I told her. Um, so yeah, that's a funny,
That's what's
funny
occurring.
what do you call it? Yeah, coinkydink or coincidence.
It
And
is.
then also I just wanted people to know that we are now putting we record this on Zoom.
Mhm.
So we're now putting our video episodes up on YouTube so you can
Hmm.
see us uh and our faces and all the funny things that we're doing in the background. Um, so you could just go to our website at bendypodcast.com to
If you
check it
could
out.
like and subscribe for our channel, for any of our videos, we would really appreciate it. That would be a big help. Thank you so much.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And thank you to all the folks that leave comments on YouTube. Fascinating and fun.
yeah,
And who knows, we'll probably read it here. So
yeah, absolutely. Like so
we'll do birthday shout outs,
yeah, absolutely. We're
cameos.
not above that. Yeah, we'll do whatever. We'll do whatever. Uh, it is actually leads me on to dovetails in quite nicely to something I was thinking about over the past week, which
Yeah.
was I was thinking about our lore and whatnot. I can't remember. Is Stan RPA? I'm trying to remember.
What?
You know, remember we've talked about our fictional, not fictional personal
Oh,
assistant,
Doug.
Doug. Thank
Doug.
good Lord. Sorry, Doug. Apologies to Doug.
Stan.
With apologies
Oh
to
my
Doug.
God, he's gonna die. You need to apologize to
I'm
Doug.
so sorry, Doug. I'm so sorry. He's shining my shoes in the other room
He's
right
crying in
now.
the corner
Yeah,
right
he's
now.
in the corner, and wow, I bet he's better look at those tears in my shoes. Uh, it'll be hell to pay.
Fucking Doug.
But it got me thinking about if our sort of collective, like where we would have our communal sort of home. And the one that occurred to me was the calling it the Bendy bunker. That's the first thing.
Ooh.
Do we like that? Are we gonna
Mm-hmm.
workshop that? Do you want to workshop that now?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Bendy Bunker. Like a group of people
yeah,
that
yeah,
want
yeah.
to
You know,
like,
like part of the collective,
uh-huh.
fan base, and whenever we
Bendy.
eventually set up our commune, what are we
Bendy
going to
fan,
call it?
Bendy Bunker, Bendy. Oh, the
I
yeah.
mean, like it's a first step. Maybe we'll look at Bendy Bunker, but that's just I don't know why I started thinking about that, but I did, and I wrote it down. So that's what's occurred with
I
me,
like it. I like
right?
it.
I like
Also, I can
alliteration.
start like a Facebook group.
Yeah, the Bendy Bunker. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's
Mhm.
like it sounds kind of secret. It sounds like you're gonna get mysterious information if you go into the Bendy Bunker.
You might.
So
Who knows what I'll throw in there?
exactly, exactly. So one to watch out for,
Uh-huh.
everyone.
Uh-huh.
But yeah,
Good
so
job, Andy.
thanks, my
Was that
random.
Doug's idea?
No, shut up, Doug.
Is he still crying in your
Yeah, he's still
shoes?
kind of the corner. He's trying to say it is his idea, but he's a liar. Uh, that's just again, this is just a thing. That just
He's behind you smoking cigarettes.
smoking cigarettes. That makes sense, right? Okay, he's gonna get a belt later. That's what's gonna happen. Uh, But the whole Bendy Bunker thing, literally, probably just apropos of nothing. I was just sitting there, and Bendy Bunker jumps into my head, so I just thought I would write it down.
I wrote it down. I
Yeah,
wrote it on the paper.
perfect. Oh, so it's legally binding now. Thank goodness.
It's legally binding.
Um,
Under Barbara Streisand, I wrote it.
okay, perfect. Um, okay, so it's
Yes.
time for us to get
We,
into this week's
you want me to
episode.
tell the
Yeah, yeah,
episode?
you tee it up, because
Because
yeah,
you probably don't remember.
no, I don't.
Um, Doug didn't do good show notes.
Yeah.
So we're doing the Idiot's Guide to Bendy Folklore,
Hmm.
where this week we are, instead of Andy telling me about the Irish folklore
Hmm.
and me telling Andy about the United States of America folklore, we're
Hmm.
gonna
Hmm.
switch it and tell each other what we think we know about each
Hmm.
other's country's folklore.
Hmm.
And we did not use Google at all.
No,
So this is going to be terrible.
I have literally what I have done is I tried to scar my brain for any sort of American folklore that I can remember, and then I've written that down, and that's it. So it's a nightmare.
Yeah. I did
Love it.
Google Irish folklore and then I just like copied the Google list and pasted it on a piece of paper.
Love
And then I took the ones out that I really, really have no idea about. Uh, so this is going to be weird and we're
it.
going to be wrong.
Very wrong.
Don't get too mad at us.
No. Well,
Uh,
I
yeah.
mean, when we do some corrections, we'll maybe like if we're close to something, we can fill
Yeah.
in with
Right.
what we do know. Yeah, 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 yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So do you want to lead
So,
off? What
and
do you have? Sorry.
okay. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about my genetic history
Hmm.
because I did the 23andMe or ancestry.com or whatever, and I have a large like UK
Yeah.
history. So I have a lot of I'm like 60% Irish or something
Hmm.
from Northern Ireland. I don't know what part.
Hmm. Well.
So I'm excited because I'm gonna do a UK tour. I'm gonna see some friends in London and see Andy in Ireland. But I'm just excited to like go back to because I like as an American, you kind of lose your history.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a Celtic center around here or an Irish
Yeah.
center around here. And so I don't, you know, and so many of us have, you know, are from Ireland, yet we don't really know anything about it. So I'm excited to talk about this and it's gonna sort of prime me for the trip and asking you all the questions and wanting to go to all the places.
Yeah, I
So
love it.
yeah.
I mean, like it's funny. I think that and it's I think the amount of people who live here who know fuck all about mythology or the history of their own country. Do you know what I mean? It's always so interesting. Um, uh, but I and there's plenty of cool stuff there. It's just people are just so not engaged with it when they live there. They take it so for granted. I think is the problem. Is that it's only whenever you don't have it. I think that you feel the loss of it.
But I was talking to my hairdresser yesterday, and like he was talking about how, you know, just that's as an American, it's just hard to feel like you're connected to anything. And maybe that's why there's so much discourse,
Yeah,
because we really don't know. We don't have a lot of commonality because we don't really look at what we have in our histories,
yeah,
and like we all
yeah.
came from somewhere, unless you're Native American. Um, we all
True.
came from somewhere else, and like, but we
That's
don't
true.
really go down those trails. So yeah, I'm excited to test the waters of what I actually know.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm embarrassed about what I already don't know about American folklore. So Uh,
Okay, do you want to lead off with something or okay.
sure. Okay, I'm gonna do the one I do know.
Okay.
So I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's Nile of the Nine Hostages.
Uh-huh.
Didn't know that. So Mike did his 23andMe, and he's the descendant of Nile of the Nine Hostages.
Okay.
So this guy lived hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And he was fighting people for kingdoms and things, and
Uh-huh.
he
Uh-huh.
had
Uh-huh.
9 hostages,
Uh-huh.
and he was so bad and terrible, he killed all of them. And this story has lived on in infamy to the point that it's on 23andMe.
Yeah.
And Mike's a descendant. And I was like, this is perfect.
I so
Your ancestor is a bludgeoner.
well, it's like one of those things where it's like what a third of the world's population is descended from Attila the Hun. He is not a great
Is that
guy.
true?
Yes,
Right,
because
right.
he raped and pillaged so much. It's
So
like
much, right.
insane. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
absolutely not.
Well,
Yeah, wow. It's so cool. So yeah,
so am I right?
I totally know loads about Nile and the Nine Hostages. I'm not like feverishly searching for this
You've
one right
literally
now.
never heard
I
of
have
him at
never
all,
heard of
have
that one
you?
now. Like, because I've heard of other ones, like there is one called The Children of Lear. Do you know this one?
No, it's not on my list.
Okay, so it's another sort of thing that I mean, like it's a bit more fantasy based where he I can't remember what his grievance was, but he had a problem with his kids and turned them into swans.
Oh,
And
I did see that.
yeah, um
And that like for 900 years or something.
yeah. So that's the only sort of,
Is that why swans are protected?
I think it is one of the reasons why swans are kind of looked after or thought of in a sort of a heightened fashion, I guess. But again,
Because they're children.
yeah, of Lear. But it's another one
Like
that I'm
Like
kind of
King Lear?
yeah,
Okay.
not of the King Lear of
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. No, no, no. But this is
Okay.
L-I-R.
L-I-R.
That
Okay.
I do remember. Again,
Okay.
like I only, it's a lot of this isn't stuck in there all that well.
Okay. You
Okay.
go. You're next.
Okay, so Johnny Appleseed, right? So
Johnny
as
Appleseed.
far as I know, he was a guy who basically got a bunch of apple seeds, right? Went around the US or the known US at that time, sprinkling apple seeds everywhere and creating apple orchards. And as a result, to this day, Americans have a beautiful bounty of apples no matter where they go. Is that basically Johnny Appleseed?
Don't know. I don't know the story of Johnny Appleseed. It's
Okay.
like one of those like children's stories
hmm
where
it's
like
based on a real person, though, isn't it?
I think probably.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm getting Isaac Newton's apple mixed
Yeah,
up
yeah, yeah, yeah.
with Johnny Appleseed.
hmm hmm
I don't remember.
Uh,
Doug,
um,
Doug.
Doug, get in here. Yeah, so I'm pretty certain that is it. I mean, this must be, see, for people who like accuracy, this is going to be a one frustrating list.
I know. Okay, so he was a missionary nurseryman and lived in Pennsylvania, Indiana, Illinois, and did spread apples.
Okay.
And there's a day for him.
I'm just looking up here and he looks like a real hunk. I'm just looking at
Yeah, yeah, he's like super bit buff and like he's got his little hoe and he's like
Yeah, 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 yeah. I suppose he
tilling
would
tilling the
be. I
dirt,
suppose
tilling the
like
dirt.
nice.
Johnny Appleseed. Yeah, that's like an East Coast one. I don't know.
Okay, okay. So that's some East Coast bullshit. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's my
yeah.
that's my first one. What
Okay,
else? What
okay,
else you got for me?
okay. I got Silky.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So from what I understand, they're like seals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, I guess, like in the Odyssey where they're
The
or
temptresses.
the temptresses. So they sing people maybe to their watery graves. Maybe they get mistaken for mermaids. And maybe if you sing to one, it'll sing back. Like if you sing to a seal, it'll sing back to you.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close to that. I mean, like,
And then it'll get eaten by a whale.
yeah, yes, yes. That whale get a bit too close to the coast. Uh, I think you're pretty much as far as I know, but broadly speaking, like Selkies are very much sort of Northern Irish mermaids, and
Mhm.
but I think by and large they have a slightly better reputation than mermaids. I think mermaids were like known to be like the sort of like trying to lure sailors to their deaths, but I think like Selkies within Irish folklore are mischievous as a lot of like mythical creatures are, but would help as much as they would kind of hinder. But it is
Huh.
very much it's seals that kind of created that sort of thing. I saw like a
We have
really
seals here too.
I know, but like I mean, keep in mind probably you were like vaguely enlightened by the time of America. Vaguely enlightened.
Mm.
Are you are you even vaguely enlightened now?
Mm.
So like those things were more people were, I guess, more skeptical then perhaps, I don't know, but
I love like ocean lore
yeah.
in general.
It was and I can't remember the type of aquatic animal. It was maybe a sea cow or something like that. And there was a picture recently of the kind of the bottom of a sea cow and like how much their tail actually looks like legs. Like it almost
Are you
like it
talking
looks like
manatees?
well, maybe it was a manatee actually. Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but it was just
They
you
call
know
them like they call them sea cows.
yeah, sea cows. Yeah, yeah, it could have been. But it was basically just a photo of something like a seal or a manatee, and like how the tail. It did look like a pair of legs, and and it was kind of very much like the picture was shown as a reason why you might see how somebody back in the day would see a body of one of these things and go, "Oh, that's half human," or "That
Would be
is
like
was a
right,
human." Yeah,
right, right. Or just like, you're on a boat for so long and I just love all the assumptions we're making.
I know,
So
I
I'm
know.
I'm I'm owning it. But like, you've got scurvy
It's
because you
true.
haven't had any oranges. I actually had a friend that got scurvy in college.
Wow.
Not eating enough. Yeah. Yep.
Like,
I
but
see
I
you, high school
think.
friend.
But I think, what's interesting about all this stuff, and in terms of anybody is like, oh, this is how it was, and this is how it was, these things do change over time. And I think,
Yeah.
in their recollection, how they're retold, these myths do shape. They're not like singular, they're not set in stone. And I think that's what's kind of quite fun and interesting about them. Like,
Mhm.
I think, largely speaking, with Irish folklore, they do tend to be like 'cause, some sort of like Eastern European folklore is dark shit, whereas like Irish tends to there is some darkness in there, absolutely, but there's a lot of sort
Yours
of
yours is
nicer
very
stuff.
fertile.
It
It's
is,
very much connected to the earth
yeah,
and the seasons and that just like it's obvious the amount of um connection that Irish people have with the planet,
yes, I think so. I mean, and
just
I think
based
that's why it's
on my
got
list.
like a rich sort of
And
like
war.
yeah, well, 100%, rich history of like shamanism and stuff like that as well here,
Mhm,
so it kind of
mhm,
kind of makes
mhm.
sense. Okay, um,
Which
so one of like one of your West Coast boys, the Bigfoot. So
Yep.
Bigfoot, certainly whenever I was a youth, would be something that I would have been curious about because, you know, X-Files was popular and I was really into all those like conspiracy theories and outlandish stuff. You know, whenever it was like fun and kind of quirky to be interested in conspiracy theories, and then it became like dark and awful.
Right, right. I
So,
loved X-Files, by the way.
oh, so good.
Yep.
Um, so the Bigfoot was definitely something I knew about. But so Bigfoot is essentially a half man, half ape who walks the forests of, I think by and large the West Coast, wasn't it? Like,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Canada, where
Hmm.
was where the and stuff you see the sightings. Um, I remember kind of seeing quite a famous video of this back in the day, like the black and white video of Bigfoot supposedly, like back in the 50s or 60s. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and then the rest of my knowledge comes from Harry and the Hendersons. So he was very friendly dude. And was great with people and could make excellent siren noises.
I love Harry. I remember watching Harry and the Henderson. Oh my God. Yes, he loves people, fit in great with the family.
It could really make a really authentic fire engine
Yeah.
sound.
Yep. Yep. So, so there's two names for Bigfoot, Sasquatch,
Yeah.
and which I'm assuming is the native name, and then Bigfoot. So I think it
Mhm.
goes back probably longer than uh
Oh, so
what
to Native American sort of
I
times as
think
well.
Sasquatch sounds. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
It does.
Everyone correct me if I'm wrong. But so there continue to be people that think that they see sightings of Bigfoot. I mean, there are people that literally spend time trying to still find Sasquatch, find Bigfoot,
Hmm.
footprints. You get people dressing up like Bigfoot and someone else like staging a photo and then like selling it to the National
Of
Enquirer.
course. Hmm.
So once a year that's a story that comes out, but definitely like non-threatening. I don't know if it's half man, half ape. I think it's more like something like a
Different.
completely different species
Yeah.
that's, because you live in the Pacific Northwest, uh or the West Coast, like hairy because it's cold and wet and you know,
Hmm.
just wants to be a hipster.
Of course. Does he have like plaid shirts and
Yeah,
a
yeah, 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 yeah.
beanie hat?
Yep, yep.
Wow.
Wooden glasses that he
That's
doesn't
good.
actually need.
Nirvana t-shirt.
Uh-huh.
Classic. Oh no, no, not Nirvana, Ramones. For
Remote.
yeah, for that proper hipster like.
Yep, yep, yep. That he's never actually listened to. So yeah,
No, no, no,
yeah,
no.
no, no.
Uh,
Good, good.
okay, all right.
Okay,
So,
so
mhm.
leprechauns.
Okay, the big
So
dogs.
I was talking to my hairdresser yesterday, and I was like telling him what our topic was, and I was like, yeah, I don't even know what a leprechaun is. So what I thought a leprechaun was a tiny little elf guy that would come and do
Huh?
something with money. But my hairdresser says that he thought it was like a pygmy tribe, and it was actually like a tribe of little people that lived a long time ago.
Like Oompa Loompas.
Huh?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. So I'm gonna guess that there were actually like little people, uh, and that they maybe just became part of the general population, uh, but that they're lucky.
Yes. I mean, like, that's pretty, I mean, like, again, okay, so obviously,
And they have
our under,
something to do with St. Patrick's Day.
uh, yeah, like, I mean, just in terms of they are a clear symbol of Ireland, I think they're often attached to St. Patrick's Day. So, like, I think you're like fairly spot on in terms of my understanding. Like, it's another one that has become so, what the story of what leprechauns are has become so, mulched up and kind of changed into different things. And like, I remember. well, there's a series of like horror films called Leprechaun, right? Like, and there's also
Yeah,
like Leprechaun in the Hood and things like that, and all sorts.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
seen this? So no, but it is that, but they are, I think they are very much, in terms of my understanding, are like our equivalent of fairies, so they
Oh,
are,
wow.
both kind of, but can grant riches and but can also, do mischievous things to you as well. Um, so
This is a theme.
it is. I think it is. I think that's a little of all of folklore, isn't it? Like they're tricksters almost,
Do you think that like Irish people are kind of like, is that your humor?
I think there's a bit of like playful wickedness in Irish humor, but yeah, I think that would be, yeah. Generally speaking, I think that's
Like, do you
fair.
guys like play pranks on each other?
No, but I think
Huh.
that I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I think that see, in terms of like whip crack sort of sharp sort
Yes.
of responses, I
Yes.
think Irish people are the best for that. I think
Yes.
just really insightful, cutting, beautifully done,
Yes.
and
Like you have a like that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the podcast with you because like you are so fast and you're so witty and like I am so American and it takes me like 2 days to think up a comeback and then I'm like, that's what I should have said. Right? And you're like
Yeah,
on it. You're all over
yeah,
it.
sometimes, yeah.
So
Thank you. Yeah, no, but I think so. The other thing I was going to say for was about leprechauns was, do you know about leprechauns and rainbows?
I mean, I know that there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow
Yes. And you know who owns that pot of
and
gold?
the leprechaun does.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So
And
if
the
you
leprechaun doesn't want you to get the pot of gold, so
no,
the rainbow like moves around, and that's
yeah.
why you can
So
never find the end of the rainbow,
exactly,
right?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly, and that's the most
Having been a child and like done the research myself, where I actually tried to find the end of the fucking rainbow
yeah.
multiple times.
And there's been times I've
That's just
lost.
what I would assume. Am I
I've
right?
just, yeah, yeah, 100%. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I think this was like, as far as I know, there was also a thing about basically they were like the first kind of creatures to bring gold to Ireland as well. So they're kind of tied to
Um,
like wealth and sort of prosperity and things like that as well. So yeah.
huh. So then I wonder if the Harry Potter trolls are actually leprechauns.
Hmm. I'd say so. They
J.K.
kind of
Rowling. Way
almost
to rip that
seemed,
off.
I know,
Ireland.
they all always seemed, and funny looking at the designs of them recently, they really do seem, they're not, because they're what's supposed to be like goblins or trolls. So these are the bankers, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
At Green Guts.
Because they do have more of a kind of a leprechaun sort of vibe to them, I think, as
Especially the
well.
evil from the Leprechaun horror movies.
Yes, very much so. Yeah,
Do you believe in fairies?
yeah.
Like if you're hiking and you're like,
Like yeah, yes, in theory, I absolutely do. I am open to like all these things. I would kind of love to see a fairy, but nothing would delight me more than seeing something like completely out of my sphere of understanding. So yeah, I think I told you before, like Iceland, one of the things I love so much about it was that like a third of the population believes in fairies, and
mhm,
having our tour guide having a really earnest conversation with us about how this story in her life that can only possibly be explained by fairies. And I love that so much. So I'm definitely open to it, but I am also kind of a wee bit skeptical and stuff as well. So I don't know. I'm in a halfway house, I think.
okay.
What about you?
Mm, I absolutely believe in fairies. And it's not part of our culture.
Yeah.
Um, unless you're a child, but I definitely like
Like,
Harper builds fairy houses outside, and I'm like, build that fairy house. Maybe one will move in.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I
How
don't think
bad?
that I don't know if they're as tangible as like it'll land on your finger and you'll have a conversation with it. But like I do believe in like the things that I can't see, you know?
Yes. And I truly, more than anything, believe that anything's possible. I mean, I think, in terms of what we as humans understand is only a small sliver of reality,
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
who knows, truly who knows, and I am open to any of these things. What's a great thing, and it maybe doesn't happen so much in the US is, so because we have we do have fairies and stuff like that as well, a little bit like in mythology. So people put like fairy tours and trees and things like that. So in certain like forest, you'll come along, you'll just see like these tiny little doors at the bottom of trees and things like that, which I think is really lovely.
That's wonderful. They
Yeah,
sell those now in like kid kits. Like you can get like
nice.
little fairy. It's got like a little door and like a mushroom and like, you can
Yeah.
put it at the base of a tree. So I remember Harper did that with my mom. But
Yeah.
I will like go hiking and like you come across like a particularly beautiful piece of nature, and I just kind of, well, I will pause and be like, that would be a good place for fairies to live,
Yeah,
and acknowledge it and then just like keep walking.
I like it. That's good. No, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
What you got?
What else I got? Okay, so
I'm
I
still
guess
mad about Johnny Appleseed. I can't believe I don't know anything about that.
um you'll maybe this is maybe a technicality and you'll maybe tell me that this is not allowed, but what I want to talk about is chupacabra.
You can talk about Chupacabra.
Okay,
I'm like
perfect.
right by the border. I'm 45 minutes from the
Oh
border to
yeah, that's
Mexico.
true.
So
Sure. Oh,
yes.
really? I didn't use that
Yeah.
close. Okay.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, when you come, we'll go to Tijuana, buddy.
sweet. I've never been to Mexico. Anyway, right, okay. Beth, let's focus up. We're talking about chupacabra.
Sorry, sorry,
We're
sorry.
talking about something serious. We're talking about chupacabra. So chupacabra is like kind of a goat devil type thing that kind of harasses people. I think it's more monstrous than fairy tale right? As far as I know. So it's more about like it will attack people or is vicious and kind of like almost like a demon rather than something enchanting and potentially wonderful. It's something to be feared and kind of run away from. Like I think most of the other stuff we've talked about is a bit halfway house, but like he is definitely a kind of monstrous kind of asshole. So that's my understanding of Chip Carter.
Did you ever read The Tommyknockers by Stephen King?
I know I didn't.
Okay. That's the only other thing like I could equate Chupacabra to.
Hmm.
It's basically what people used to scare their children. Like, don't do that,
Ah,
don't go out late at night,
the Chupacabra will come for
the
you.
Chupacabra will come for you. Yeah. So it's like it is, I do think it is part goat, part monster. Um, Definitely comes out at night, definitely used as like or is like a creature to be feared and will
Interesting.
eat
Okay.
you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I thought. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like a kind of a boogeyman sort of
Hmm.
story with more than anything. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And is it
Yeah.
like purely? Is it? Would you say it's both a myth for Mexico and the United States, or would it be primarily Mexico, which is or
I
mostly
think it's
Mexico?
more of a Mexican, it's definitely more of a Mexican mythical creature,
Okay.
but I think it's something that like my kids know about. I
Oh
never
well.
learned about it, but my kids, so it's like I think it's shifting right now. And like you were saying before, these things change and morph, and right
Hmm.
now this like chupacabra is morphing into something that my children are learning about, but not necessarily something that they fear because of the origin, if that makes
Yes,
sense.
yes, it does. It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's reminded me. I'm gonna take us on a wee bit of a tangent here, but it's just made me think about something. I don't know if I've told you about the story before or not. So, it was some sort of TikTok video or whatever, but it was a guy basically posting. It was like, I need to tell you, if you think you're doing a bad job parenting, I just need you to know what I've done. So my son recently came to me and he said that he was reading a story in this book and there was these monsters in it and they were really scary. And he was like, what are the monsters? And he goes, well, it's a Nazi. And he's like, oh, what are you reading? Nazis? Like, this is awful. And he goes, like, what can, like, Daddy, can you tell me what they are and why they're bad? And he's like, I don't know how to broach this subject. So he told his child what Nazis were and how they were real and how they were scary and how they existed and sadly they still do exist. And this went on for some time. And he was trying to figure out, he's trying to get to the bottom of where this had come from, this concept had come from, and he couldn't find out. And he was kind of angry with the school about introducing the concept. And then eventually, like I said, a few months later, he was reading this book, or his son asked him to read a book, and he goes, "Oh, can you read me the book? This is the book with a Nazi in it." And he was like, "Oh, wow!" And he went to the page, and it was actually a Nazi, the spider, the African spider god.
Oh,
So he had told his child unnecessarily about what Nazis are.
what Nazis are, they'd still exist,
And he was
and you need to fear this thing.
and it was a giant spider god that he was gonna fight. It's like, oh no. So yeah.
So I know this,
Mhm.
which is my least favorite topic, which is that's joy, but that Ireland created something that, that I that's cool and I didn't know about it. Dracula
Yes. Hmm.
is from Ireland. Bram
Yep.
Stoker's Dracula. So everyone thinks that uh Transylvania, or it's so
Yes.
horrible. I just said that out loud.
Blah. Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
I
But
drink your blood.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, so vampires and Dracula actually that's like Irish lore.
Irish and like English. Yeah, he spent time there as well. But like it's
He was a
but I
real
think
dude.
he was
But
real
was he
dude.
born in Ireland?
The guy that wrote it.
No, like,
Oh, no. So there's, I think there's a bit, I've read a little bit about this. I think there's a
okay.
bit of like, there's nobody sure exactly who he based them on, but like, I think somebody he knew was from Eastern Europe and he researched Eastern Europe a little bit before
Okay.
but he also spent a lot of time traveling in England and things like that. And like,
Okay.
they think a lot of the basis of it was his experience and time living in Ireland and England. Yeah, which was mad to me as well.
So was okay. So there what but so vampires aren't real.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well,
But
that's good.
yeah, it's probably for the best actually.
Actually, Chupacabra is the bloodsucker. So
Yes. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. So he is like
yeah.
a sort of good vampire.
Good vampire.
Good monster vampire. Okay, perfect. He sounds really chill.
Which is, he kind of like he's definitely he's a jack of all trades.
Yeah, he sounds like the sort of guy you'd really want to hang out with. Yeah.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah, just good vibes all the time with that guy. Um, okay. So is it your turn?
No, I did Dracula.
Okay, you did do Dracula. Okay, so my next one is Paul Bunyan. I don't know if
Ooh,
that's a
good
piece
one.
of folklore. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
feel like I did know about Paul Bunyan, but it has completely disappeared from my head. I think
Mhm.
all I can really remember about him is he was famous for chopping down trees and he was quite big. And he gained national renown as a result. That's that's as much as I was able to conjure.
This is good. This is good. So what I know of Paul Bunyan is that yeah, he was very tall. So he's something like 40 feet tall or 50 feet tall.
Whoa. Okay.
And he had a blue ox. So it was Babe the Blue
Uh-huh.
Ox and
Uh-huh.
Paul Bunyan. And he would, so this is a West Coast folklore tale, I believe, because we have so many big trees.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he actually he was a he was a giant lumberjack.
Okay. Okay.
And he would I remember reading the story, he would have his big axe and he would fell all the trees, and then he was actually working with humans, and so they would have like a giant
Hmm.
lumber camp, and the humans would cook for him and he would be the one to chop down all the trees. And so they would put like giant pads of butter on their feet and they would ice skate across the skillet to pour, and then pour like the pancake batter onto the giant skillet to
I
make him
love
his
it.
breakfast. Right, so it's a little like
Like a
oh, what's that?
BFG.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big friendly giant. So he's
Yeah.
he's good. He's got I don't know where he was born. I don't know how he died or those things, but definitely like you'll drive around the Pacific Northwest, like there are statues of him everywhere.
Nice.
There's a giant one. There's a giant replica with him and Babe the Blue Ox, who has these
Uh-huh.
giant testicles that like you can go and like stand underneath and take a photo of, which I
Like they
have.
I like they put the testicles on there. That's good.
They're there. They're there. And then
Perfect.
like a kid, you're like, what are those? And your parents are like, I gotta have this conversation. So
Uh,
um yeah, but I always just love that image of like ice skating with butter
oh,
pads on your
it's a
feet.
nice one. Yeah, it's really, yeah,
Yeah, and eating
I can dig that.
flapjacks. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
lovely. Yeah,
And
very,
then they cut down all the redwoods,
yeah,
except for the ones in Star Wars. So
yeah. I
Yep.
saw them many years ago in San Francisco. It was lovely.
Yeah.
They're still there, hopefully, up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Should we do one more
Banshee.
each? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, let me pick the right one then. Okay, I'm gonna say Banshee.
Okay.
So they're like no, they're like ghosts that live in like the wilderness
Mm-hmm.
and they like to scream at nighttime. And they're scary and they will come after you
Yes.
and maybe curse you.
Uh, um, yes. So,
So like when you go camping, you have to watch out for the banshees. So you'll hear the banshees screaming on the wind.
yes, I think that is like so they are. I think that they are female.
Okay.
So I think they're women who've been wronged in some way, but I
That's why
can't
people call
remember.
women banshee. Oh, like
Yes,
she's
you.
screaming like a banshee.
Yes. But I think it's something to do with women who have been, and even my friggin' memory of this is partial, but it is women who've been wronged in some way. But I suppose like ghosts, generally speaking, have unresolved business in the world that they
Mm.
haven't been able to like satisfactorily deal with in their life, so they've come back to kind of like to do something about that. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. It's a pretty good approximation of what banshees are. Yeah. Think they're
Okay.
like they're pretty famous worldwide now, banshees, right?
I mean, we know that it's more a term that we use, but not something that like we're afraid of.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I like it.
Point for me.
Yes. Are we taking points? What the hell?
I've been scoring and you've got 0 and I've got nothing. No, we have
Wow.
not. No, this
Um,
isn't a competition.
it's
This
not.
is us just being idiots.
Yes, it's just been it is for an hour. So my last one is the New Jersey Devil.
Ooh.
And I'm aware of him because I know there's a hockey team. The way I think of New Jersey Devil is as uh, um essentially like the cousin of the Chupacabra, except he lives a little bit
Hmm.
further up north. He's more of a New York dude. He's sort of New
He's
Jersey
got an
dude, a
accent.
New Jersey dude, not a New York dude. Good Lord, I better get myself in trouble there. So he's got an accent. He's like he got a bit of an attitude. He likes what is it? What is it they like New Jersey? Is it the ham rolls or whatever? I don't know.
Uh,
He likes pizza pie, etc., etc.
oh, right. Is that your accent?
Yeah,
The
that's
pizza pie.
I'm no,
I've never heard of
I'm
the
not
New
gonna do
Jersey
a Jersey.
Devil.
I'm not gonna do a Jersey accent. Yeah, that's another guy I can
Joycey.
Jersey. I've got like a good friend from
Joycey.
who's from Jersey, and if he heard me doing a New Jersey accent, he would murder me. Well, he would laugh, but he would murder me.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
Metaphorically.
so it's just like yes. He is just the North America's Chupacabra, Chupacabra's North American cousin.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Both coasts. Like
Both
it.
coasts covered.
I've never heard of the New Jersey
Really?
Devil.
No way. Yeah,
Yeah.
he has one. Tangentially, like back in the day, whenever I was looking at those sort of conspiracy theories books and like things about cryptids and stuff like that, he was one that came up, but he was like a lesser one, I think, in the grand scheme of
Hmm.
things, but he was still known.
Hmm. You know what's interesting from this exercise? I thought that there would be more like things that would have transferred from like your country
Mm,
to the States, but
true.
it
Yeah.
hasn't happened.
Like these their own mythologies kind of spring up. Yeah, you're right. It's true.
Yeah. And like we've only been around for like 300 years. And
Yeah.
so so I wonder like where are now I need to go back and like do some research on like where our mythologies have come from
Yeah.
because I'm curious.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would assume because we're Americans, we just steal from everybody else, and we did not do
Yeah.
that when
No,
it
but
comes
yeah.
to
But
our myths
it's so interesting how
and
these things
folklore.
spring up or like gain traction as well. Do you know, it's always so interesting.
Hmm.
Um, the other question. So I yes, before we move on to our last section, I was going to ask you if there's any pieces of mythology that you're hoping I would bring up, or anything that's worth mentioning that wasn't brought up.
There's one that's cool, and I
Hmm.
don't remember the location. And like this is one that probably most people don't know about, but there's a gravestone on the East Coast, somewhere on somewhere on the East Coast.
Hmm.
And there's an outline of a boot
Hmm.
on it, and I can't remember, as I'm telling this horrible story. I don't know who the person is. But I just know that this tombstone is cursed, and they take the tombstone away, they put a new tombstone up, the boot image comes back every time,
Hmm.
and it's super creepy and it's real and it actually exists. Okay.
Okay, interesting. Do it
Yeah.
have like a
Yeah.
name or anything? Or
I don't, I'll have to,
okay,
Doug will look that
okay.
up and let us know.
I
I'm
want to.
sorry we spoke harshly about
I want
him.
to. Okay.
Doug, please help us with the boot myth,
I want this
boot
typed up.
tombstone.
I want this typed up
I
on my
know.
desk first thing tomorrow morning, Doug.
I know.
Um, no, that's
But I just
interesting. I have not heard
like
that one.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
What about you?
so I think mine's insane compared. So like probably one of the most famous Irish myths is Finn McCool. Do you know about this, the Irish giant?
And the Giant's Causeway.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically there was a causeway. So essentially there
I
are
have it written down and I skipped it because I was like, I have no fucking clue.
so there is there's some great mythology around this, but essentially um there are these sort of like I'll take you up there whenever you come over, but like there are these like
Okay.
hexagonal columns that were bizarre to see that in nature that have grown up because of like volcanic eruptions in ancient times that have created this sort of area in the coastline on the kind of northeast coast of Northern Ireland. And there's similar columns in Scotland. So in
Ah,
mythology, the thinking was that there was a causeway to connect Ireland and Scotland, or yeah, Ulster and Scotland. And so there was two giants, two rival giants, one that lived in Ireland, one that lived in Scotland. And the two things that I remember clearly are that at one point Finn picked up there's a big loch or lake in the center of Ulster called Loch Ness. So he basically ripped the ground from there and threw it across at his Scottish rival, and then created Loch Ness. The other amazing one was at one point his Scottish rival, whose name I've forgotten, came over in the causeway to like fight Finn, and how they got around it was Finn's wife dressed Finn up like a baby, and the Scottish giant saw Finn dressed as a baby and thought, if the baby's that big, what size must Finn
oh
McCool must
shit.
be? And he ran away, and as he was running, he tore up the causeway, which is why the causeway is no longer there anymore. Right? Right?
Whoa.
I told you this one was way more insane. So that's I
It had
love
nothing to do with erosion.
no, it had nothing with erosion. It was a Scottish giant running in fear from Finn McCool. So
So
good.
it's Finn McCool. He was a giant
He
also?
was a giant. He was a giant also, but I don't
Do you
think.
guys have giant sand fairies?
Yeah.
I guess we have, I mean, I guess like Paul Bunyan is a giant.
Yeah, it's exactly. So yeah, we did have giants. Yeah, he's a famous. He's probably one of the more famous Irish myths as far as I'm aware, anyway. But yeah,
That's a good one.
isn't
That's
it?
super
Yeah,
weird.
isn't it? I love the
Giant
aspect of him
baby.
dressing as a baby and that making the giant go, if the baby's this big.
I
Uh,
just love like, so someone like, this is all oral tradition, right? Someone
yeah.
was like, I'm gonna this story, and that's like, oh, this the somehow it becomes its own thing, and someone's like, oh, what if you dress like a baby? Wouldn't that be a good way to
What a classic
to
ruse.
hide,
Yeah.
right?
I might try that.
Funny.
I'd say I would fool some people these days.
I mean,
Some morons.
you could try it for Halloween and see how it goes.
Right? Yeah, okay. It looks comfortable, those baby clothes.
I know. Sasha could be a bottle.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I think we have categorically and comprehensively talked about
We've
mythology,
annihilated this category
the mythology of both our
with all of
countries.
our brain
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah, with all of our brain knowledge. Okay. So settling into our next piece of mythology, the question then becomes, what's been bringing you joy? I hope
The
I've written.
myth, the legend. I'm listening to Barbara Streisand's autobiography.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've heard it's
I'm
huge.
it's so I got the book
Yeah, I heard the book's like 1,000 pages or
and
something.
I was like, my wrists were hurting.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so, and I only had 10 days because I borrowed it from the library. And it was like, because it's hot and new, and it's like, it's hardback. It's not in paperback yet. Hardback, it's like $45 US. So it's expensive for a
Wow.
book. I was like, I can't afford that. I'll borrow it from the library. They were like, you only have 10 days. I'm like, I can't finish the Bible
Yeah.
or William Shakespeare's complete works, right, in 10
Yeah.
days. So I got it on Audible. I'm listening to it. I really, but she reads the whole thing and she's got her
Nice.
like Brooklyn accent. I'm really enjoying the story. Um, and just like her, her life story. And there's so much no one knows about her. There's so much interpretation of like who she is as a human.
Yeah.
And she really, I think people have this idea of who she is, and she's snotty and snooty, and she's not. She's just an introverted lady
Yeah.
who has a really amazing voice and forgets who she is when she's out in public and will be like, why are people staring at me? So it's I'm not that far into it. I'm only like 400 pages in. But
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that. It's wild that
yeah,
that's not
it's
far into a book.
yeah, no, but literally like the book was hurting my hands. I was like, I can't hold it up. And now my eyesight is going. My
Yeah.
LASIK surgery is finally failing. So I need glasses, I think. So I'm
Yeah.
like
Me
trying to
too.
hold this giant book like 10 feet from my face. And I was just like, I can't do this. So yeah. Thank you,
Hey,
modern
I
technology.
know. Thank goodness. I recently, like, on a film podcast I listened to, they covered her films.
Mhm,
And they also included A Star is Born that she didn't. It's some films that she directed.
mhm. Oh,
Um,
she directed that?
no, she didn't. So, but they
Okay.
included it because, as it turned out, she probably did most of the actual directing of that film, like the guy that was
Because she's
essentially a
Barbara
kind of
Streisand.
work for. Yeah, exactly. So they just covered her fairly short filmography, but it was so interesting because they spent some time talking about her autobiography and things like that, and like how she seems to just be like exactly what you were saying. She just is like disconnected in a way, or like from the reality of her fame, and how like she can just go big stretches of time just not doing anything and know that she can just come back and say, oh, I'm just gonna do a concert tour and we'll make
Yeah.
a fortune. And then
Yeah.
she just and like talks about, and I think apparently she talks in the book about her being essentially pretty lazy, but she just like whenever she decides on a project, she really kind of dives into it
Hmm.
head first, but then
Hmm.
she's happy to just be at home and
Yeah.
chilling out. And I really
Yeah.
respect that.
Yeah. And it's interesting. She graduated high school when she was 16. Like her
Hmm.
drive as a child is insane.
That's nuts.
And, she didn't, her father died before she could, before she was a baby.
Hmm.
And her mom
Yes.
really wasn't motherly.
Yes.
So that's what she's trying to fill. And she
Yeah.
recognizes that. Like, she's got father issues. She's trying to fill, there's something in her that she can never fill. Um, so her she knew she wanted to be on Broadway. She knew she wanted to act. She was like at the actors studio in New York City with like Warren Beatty and Dustin Hoffman. They were all like there at the same time.
Wow.
That's like Warren Beatty hit on her when she was 16 and he was
Of
like
course he
20
did.
something, right? And he admitted to it. It was like, ah. So it's just, but just, but she doesn't talk about it in a way that's like, she's like, I'm a genius. I
Yeah.
graduated high school, 97% average or whatever. She's just like, here's how it happened.
Yeah.
And she was trying to get accepted to the Strasbourg. Oh, I'm gonna
Oh,
get it wrong. The
yeah.
yeah, the but she was like 15 or 16 and they said she auditioned and they were like, you're good, come back again when you're older. And the way that she thought about it wasn't, okay, I'm too young. She said, I didn't impress them enough to change the rules
Wow. I love it.
for me. And I was like, oh,
That's a
ooh,
great way of thinking about the world. Like it really is.
right?
Yeah. 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 I love it. Yeah.
So like that's kind of what I'm taking that approach, I'm not necessarily taking that approach, but I'm tumbling that around in my mind right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like who will what can I do so well that they will bend the rules in order to allow me to move forward in whatever direction I want to move forward.
I am envious of that way of looking at the world. Yeah, it's nice. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good way to do it,
I'm not
definitely.
saying I have it. I'm just saying
No,
it's a really,
you're aiming
yeah,
for it. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
yeah, yeah.
That's the rocks. Um, so
Sorry, that was a really long blah
no, it
blah
was
blah.
good. No, it was I was
I
always
love
nice
me
to
some Babs.
talk about Bobs. So and I was going to text you about this, but I thought I'd save it for now, is mine is also book related. I have started reading Princess Bride.
Oh,
This is great. I'm loving it. So I'm like
yes.
4 chapters in, but I'm really enjoying it
Mm.
so far. It's great. It's just really, and like, I don't know whether this was the version that you read, but because it's I can't remember the name. What's the name of the author? Not
William Goldman.
Goldman. So like in it, it's got inserts where Goldman's like Morgenstern, blah blah blah, and
Yep.
like all these kind of really long sort of notes. I think that's such an interesting thing. And there's like
Yes.
a prelude, like that is like 10% of the book of him just
Yes.
talking about the build up to it. All of
Yes.
that's so fascinating, but
It's it's like nothing I've ever read.
yeah, it's great. It's really great. And it's really kind of like really, that sort of prose that just leaps off the page. It's like, it has energy, but I'm really enjoying it. Like, yeah, so it's very, very good so far. So
Yeah.
it's bringing me joy. So thank you for the
I'm so
recommendation.
glad. Yeah. And it's like I reread it probably once every like 5 years.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to read it to the kids right now,
Mm.
but it's like I have to leave out the sections where he's talking to you
Yes.
as the reader about his process of writing the book,
And what? Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. They don't get it, but it's like, but it's also like I'm missing out on that. So it's like I just stopped. I was like,
yeah,
let's read the eyes of the keep going with the eyes of the dragon. I'm gonna read the Princess Bride myself.
yeah.
It's
So you
just
get the full.
so there. Well, and it's like the way that they portray Buttercup. Have you gotten there?
Yes, so like yes, she early on is talking about her, yeah, yeah, and they talk about like her gradually going up the scale of the most beautiful person in the world and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just these things that like don't translate to film at all, but in the
True.
book, it's like it's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
I just love that sort of mastery of language where you
Mm.
can, and it's really like short clipped sentences, really precise. Leave even like how he dealt with like whenever she first tells Wesley that she loves him and all of that, and then her thought
Hmm.
process and everything.
Hmm.
It's very much completely untransferable to film because like
Hmm.
you can't do that. You can't, I mean you can do a shorthand version of it, but it's not the same effect.
No, like William Goldman, I like for our listeners and watchers, like I highly recommend this book.
Yeah.
He is, I mean, he was a master screenwriter, but he
Hmm.
really put everything into this book. So
It is. It's great.
yeah,
So good.
yeah,
But yeah,
good,
so
good,
that's been
good,
bringing me
good.
joy.
Yes,
Yeah.
good,
Right.
good, and it's funny.
It is funny. It really is funny.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
just like Bandy podcast.
that's right. Bendy Bunkers.
Bendy in the Bandy
Welcome to
bunker.
the Bendy Bunker.
All right, folks. So we're wrapping things up. So we would like you to we would like to
First off,
remind you.
wait, can I
Sorry.
just say if
Of
any
course.
listeners have any other folklore stuff that they want to
Yeah,
share, I'm super interested in it. And we've been talking about doing this for a while, so
we
just send
have.
them our way, and I would be curious to
Please do.
know what you know and what we can teach people about because it's fascinating stuff.
And if you want to like tell us what we got wrong or compliment us and what a good job we
Oh
did,
yeah, I could take some some pats on the back.
either of those are fine.
That's good. Yes. All right.
All right, okay. So in that case, we would like to remind you as always to stay bendy.
Bendy.
Hell yeah, that was a great one.
Since
Okay.
pneumonia, can you tell I have like a deeper
You got
voice? I
that
could like,
beautiful.
I'm gonna call all the bankers and be like, I'm gonna settle debts for people.
Nice. Okay. Right. We love you all,
Bye.
folks.
Love
Talk to you soon.
you.
Bye bye bye.
Bye bye bye.